Perfect preparation is to the Culling Games what hidden inventory is to Shibuya, and today I'm going to talk about, dissect, and explain this very short but very powerful arc. This is the definitive Perfect Preparation retrospective. While Perfect Preparation technically is the name for the 5 chapters that bridge the end of Season 2 to the beginning of the Culling Games, the 8 chapters that follow this arc and the 10 that precede it are less Culling Games and more introductory chapters to other key players that will be participating, as well as a ton of important information regarding the game itself. As such, I've included them here, meaning I'm going to be covering chapters 138 through 160. To get to Perfect Preparation, we first have to talk about what even happened at the end of Shibuya. Here's a quick recap. The Shibuya plot was a way for the now named Kenjaku to both seal Satoru Gojo as well as acquire Mahito through Geto's curse technique. Gojo needed to be out of the picture because, well, he's Gojo, and with only one Six Eyes user being able to exist at one point in time, sealing Gojo guarantees that there will be no interruptions later down the line. We won't see this take effect during this arc, but Gojo getting sealed was a tremendous loss for the sorcerer's side in this war. Mahito, on the other hand, was necessary to actually begin the Culling Games. His evolution, sparked by landing Black Flash, made his technique all the more potent, and with him being at death's door, the absorption via curse spirit manipulation was effortless. Using Tengen's barrier around Japan as a base, Kenjaku casts Idol Transfiguration. Just like how Mahito had awakened Junpei's curse technique back in Season 1, Kenjaku does the same, giving non-sorcerers that he had marked the ability to use curse techniques. Additionally, other people had been made to ingest cursed objects just like Yuji, and now their bodies had been strengthened to be vessels suitable for other sorcerers of the past to take over. With these two conditions met, Kenjaku disappears into the Veil of Curses alongside the prison realm, and the gang is left to pick up the pieces. The anime swapped the order of events a little here. Episode 23 of the anime ends with Yuji clapping his hands, and this scene actually takes place in chapter 139 of the manga, completely skipping over chapter 138, and probably for good reason. In 138, we are reintroduced to the Zenin clan, but this time around a bunch of new faces make their first appearance. Hardly makes sense to include multiple new characters in the last 5 minutes of the season, in my opinion. The ever so charming misogynist Naoya reveals that Maki is alive, simultaneously dropping one of the most out-of-pocket quotes to date in the series, I think. Any woman who can't walk 3 steps behind a man should get stabbed in the back and die. A ruthlessly misogynistic quote that I want you to keep in the back of your mind for the near future. Go ahead, write it down. In the Season 1 retrospective, I briefly touched on what being a woman in the Zenin clan even entails. Naoya embodies the Zenin clan, a conservative faction that is obsessed with sticking to tradition. Women are naturally pushed towards the bottom as a byproduct of that system. Maki's hatred for and later departure from the clan is made all the more clear here. It doesn't matter how talented Maki is, it doesn't matter how hardworking she is, and it doesn't matter who she is. At the end of the day, her very existence is looked down upon, and acknowledgement will never ever be awarded to her. As Naoya meets up with his uncle, Ogi Zenin, who is also the father of Maki and Mai, as well as his cousin, Junichi Zenin, we're made aware that Naoya's father, Naobito Zenin, okay dude, these are a lot of fucking Zenins, is at death's door. Yeah, Jogo kinda dropped the ball. Both Maki and Nanami survived the fire attack, and it's only Naobito that ends up dying to his injuries. Oops, spoiler for 2 pages from now. One aspect of Naoya that we immediately see is desire to be the next clan head. When news of Naobito's passing is delivered, Ogi and Junichi are noticeably tense, while Naoya smiles gleefully, assured of his ascension to the throne. Upon being read Naobito's last will and testament, an unforeseen amendment arises. Should Gojo Satoru be incapacitated or killed, Megumi Fushiguro will be welcomed back to the Zenin clan as the 27th head, as per a written agreement between Naobito and Toji. Toji fans stay winning and will keep winning throughout the arc. Naturally, Naoya isn't pleased. Given how much of a charmer he is, it's a real big surprise that no one likes him, and that neither Ogi nor Junichi will do anything to stop Megumi from holding all the power if it means getting one over on Naoya. Enraged by this decision, he immediately plans on killing Megumi, using the chaos and confusion brought about by Kenjaku's herd of curses being unleashed throughout Japan. In order to actually find Megumi, he lets the higher-ups know that he is interested in going after Sukuna's vessel, but his real aim is obviously to intercept Megumi before he ends up meeting with Yuji. To be honest, I actually really like the setup for this arc. When I first read this portion of the story, I was totally expecting something more political, more akin to the Uprising arc in Attack on Titan even. Do we end up getting that? Well, it's a little more like Naruto, but you can be the one to judge when we get there. Before we get to actually see Yuji though, Yuki has a few things to say. And I'm gonna be real with you here, I have no clue who she's talking to. My assumption has always been that it's Yuji, given that he's the first person we see right after she stops talking, but I'm not really sure what to make of this scene. Yuki talks about having not interfered because she thought it was simply best to watch from afar for a while, implying that she was in Shibuya throughout some of the worst of it. On one hand, you bitch, why did my goat Nanami and Nobara have to die? But more importantly, where do her allegiances lie? It's been no secret since as early as Hidden Inventory that Yuki's a bum who just does whatever she wants, never taking up any missions despite her special grade status. Her missing in action for such long portions of the story, despite showing up in chapter 50, really make me wonder if Gege had any concrete plans for her, but that'll come up a little later. Back to Yuji and Choso, Yuji has mostly recovered from his injuries. Through his numerous battles during Shibuya, he has grown stronger as a sorcerer, and even a demon god as Choso calls him. Feeling the need to atone for all the lives he took in Shibuya, Yuji is dialed in on his hunt for curses. Alongside Choso, the two make short work of them as a team, but not before Naoya makes his way onto the scene. I hate that I'm saying this, but Naoya is kinda cool here. He shows up, blitzes both Yuji and Choso, shit talks them all the while, and then even though Yuji and Choso realize that there's something weird about his speed and it's likely a curse technique, he gears up immediately for round 2, but... Having been absent from the story for over 130 chapters, Yuta is finally back in action, exerting the same pressure around Choso, Yuji, and Naoya as he did to Maki, Panda, and Toge. Yuta leaps down, crushing the ground underneath him. Yuji's appointed executioner, someone whom, just like Gojo, you'd die if you fought them, the situation reaches a boiling point. Unwilling to get on Yuta's bad side, Naoya quickly, like the snake rat he is, aligns himself with Yuta, telling him that he's here to get rid of Yuji, and as the two are conversing, Choso and Yuji also plan their next course of action. Both sides say their piece, and the battle begins. Kicking away Choso's hands to stop piercing blood, Naoya engages him in the 1v1, while Yuta charges after Yuji, but is unable to take him out in the initial rush. Yuji versus Yuta. The former MC finally meets the current MC. I won't lie, I was never actually expecting this to be the circumstances that these two meet. Now granted, that's because I only read JJK0 after I caught up with the manga, so I had no idea Yuta was actually the original MC, but still, you get my point. I really like this fight, and now that we're delving into manga material, I'll be able to more focus on the technical aspects of Gege's art. In my opinion, Gege is one of the best shonen illustrators when it comes to fight scenes. While I've been recently impressed with the likes of Hakazono's Kagurabachi or Suzuki Sakamoto days, Gege still holds a special place in my heart. The previous bouts in the manga had all been great, but from this point onward, Gege will continue to evolve and become even better, so let's break this down in detail. Yuji doesn't even bother fighting Yuta head on. He bolts it to the nearest building, launching a car towards Yuta to shake him. Just as he makes it to the door, the same car is flung right back at him. Despite his weaker demeanor, Yuta isn't weak in the slightest. His overwhelming amount of cursed energy means that every single one of his attacks is supercharged. While this has the advantage of attacks being incredibly powerful, the flow of cursed energy is nearly impossible to read. An inexperienced sorcerer telegraphs their attacks by imbuing too much cursed energy into whatever they'll be using to attack. An experienced sorcerer controls their cursed energy right up until the moment of impact, making it more difficult to react. Yuta is constantly surging with cursed energy, sparing no expense. Any and all of his attacks can be decisive. Yuji barely dodges the first swing, but gets tagged on the return. Once again, he darts away from Yuta, bouncing from one car to the open window of an SUV, noticing a knife in the passenger seat. Check out how Gege guides your eye here. Not only is Yuji's eye locked onto it, but Gege also has Yuji's leg fully extend past the panel that is directly over the knife, giving you that same feeling, that of noticing the knife in the split second that you scan the page, just as Yuji does when he's leaping through the car. Yuta lunges after him, fully swinging his katana, but Yuji fully parries. He goes on the offensive, putting all of his focus on manipulating the cursed energy through the knife. Despite starting off his sorcerer journey with a knife, Yuji is outmatched. His own knife digs deeper into his arm as Yuta pushes him back. Yuji is way too focused on the katana, allowing Yuta to effortlessly knock his arms up and landing a nasty kick, creating enough space for him to fully swing his sword once again. This time, it goes clean through Yuji's knife and almost guts him. Yuji doesn't let that moment go to waste. Using his feet, he shoves the katana deep into the concrete and then breaks it off with a kick. The wound is deep, but the organs are still there. If it's only pain, Yuji Tadori will not stop. Thinking he has the hand-to-hand advantage, he tries to close the distance. Rika halts Yuji, and Yuta puts an end to his life. Within the inner domain, Sukuna is irritated at first, but his frustration quickly turns to joy as we swap back to Choso and Naoya. Choso versus Naoya. What I appreciate most about this fight, outside of Choso being probably the best character here, is the way in which Choso and Naoya's beliefs clash, as well as the way that they potentially relate to what's happening currently in the manga. Or at least when I'm recording this, by the time this video is out, a lot of stuff has probably happened. Funnily enough, Naoya kinda embodies a version of Sukuna's ideology, that of disregarding everything and only living for oneself. When faced with the problem of Megumi as the clan head, he makes haste in being the first to run out and kill him. Instead of loving or caring about his brothers, he regards them as nothing but losers. Conversely, Choso only lives for the sake of his brothers, and I think this quote from him says it best. Older brothers are role models for their younger brothers. If the older brother takes the wrong path, the younger brother can avoid it.
and if I take the right path, my little brothers can follow behind. You asked why I'm tough, it's because I had no one to guide me, so I kept making mistakes. Nonetheless, I must walk ahead of my little brothers, that's why I am strong. Okay, a few things. One, that quote is incredibly real and I love it. Gege is in his element when it comes to a lot of things, but being able to write really compelling character interactions is definitely one of them, and a big reason why everyone wants more of it. Choso's love for his siblings transcends time, and it's for their sake that he moves forward, and also the biggest source of his strength. Earlier I said that this clash of beliefs might touch on current manga stuff, so skip here if you want to avoid quite literally everything, but I'll do my best to be as vague as possible anyway in case you just want to listen along. Currently there's two big schools of thought in Jujutsu Kaisen: Sukuna's ideal of burning everything to the ground in order to truly become the strongest, and the more human belief that strength comes from the love and trust that sorcerers place upon each other. While this is a question that hasn't been answered in the manga currently, I do think this battle between Choso and Naoya is a lesser version of that. Naoya is selfish. He lives only for himself, and that shows in his actions. Choso, on the other hand, finds his strength from those around him, mainly his brothers. Having Naoya lose because he didn't love his brothers is an outright rejection of that philosophy, and I think that could be a predictor for future events. Side note, I'm recording this with you-know-who returning. That's the most recent chapter, so if anything changes, let it be known that I said it first. I'll elaborate why I call it a lesser version of the current stuff later on, once we sort of delve more into Naoya, because we will be seeing him a lot in this little arc here. The fight itself is killer. Unable to keep up with Naoya's speed normally, Choso activates Flowing Red Scale Stack. His now improved vision allows him to trace Naoya's movements, but just seeing them isn't enough. Naoya is enough of a rat to counterattack everything, so he plunges a knife deep into Choso's abdomen, but forced to do so because of Choso's toughness. Despite this, Naoya still gloats about his position in the battle, and just then, Choso releases an unthinkable amount of blood, flooding the entire tunnel. Naoya is quick enough to dodge away from it, but Choso is one step ahead. He cuts him off, sending out his piercing blood. The attack is dodged, but it gives enough time for Choso to land a kick, as well as for his blood wave to actually reach Naoya. Controlling the blood now infused within his clothing, Choso prepares for another piercing blood. Still thinking he has the upper hand, however, Naoya dashes forward, putting faith in his curse technique. Instead of the linear piercing blood that he had expected, however, a Choso original, Supernova, covers the entire area, leaving Naoya with nowhere to run and no options to fight back. In the end, Choso's the winner. All he has to do now is go and help you. To have Yuta pummel Choso in 3 hits, even if he's tired and fresh out of a battle, is just such a baller move, and man, we'll be singing Yuta's praises in the next video in this series, so don't you worry, fellow Yuta glazers. Oh hey, I can talk about this completely uncensored now. It's only a few pages long, but Kenjaku as Yuji's mother remains one of the bigger mysteries, even currently with, what, 4 chapters left? While Gege did give us the why for Kenjaku doing this in chapter 257, the questions I have regarding Wasuke still remain. Who the f*** is this guy? Why does it feel like he knows so much more than maybe he should? And will Gege even answer this? Well, knowing him, probably not, but actually maybe? However, I can't help but think about it, so I think it's best we just move on before I start going a little crazy. Upon seeing Mama Jaku, Yuji jolts awake. He sat near a fire with Yuta looking over him with a somber expression. Realizing that Yuji is okay, he lets out a deep sigh of relief, smiling ear to ear. As it turns out, Gojo had gone to Yuta a month prior and told him to take care of the first and second years. Yuta took matters into his own hands and got himself appointed as Yuji's executioner. Unbeknownst to the higher-ups, Yuta can use RCT on others just like Shoko or Sukuna, allowing for him to bypass the binding vow set upon him. While he technically kills Yuji, because of that lack of knowledge regarding RCT from the higher-ups, Yuta is able to then revive him without breaking the vow. Put a pin on that aspect of binding vows, we will be talking about them a lot in the future. What I like about Yuta and Yuji is that they're kinda cut from the same cloth. Both characters are thrust into the Jujutsu world without their knowing, both of them house a power that they can't or don't understand, and both vow to become stronger for the sake of their friends. There's a few key differences, mainly Sukuna. Can't really imagine Rika popping out after Maki gets injured and being all like, damn, you suck at this sorcery battleship, man, maybe it's time to end it all. That's more of a Sukuna thing. Both characters feel distinct, and with Yuta being the older one who's actually gone through something similar and at a much better place currently than Yuji, having him be kind of a mini mentor kind of character would be super cool. Does gentrification Akutami delve into that? Well, no. Before this bit goes any longer, Megumi arrives to save you from my diatribe. Yuji and Megumi share what I would argue to be the most important dynamic in the entire story. The only reason we have this story in the first place is because of Yuji's selflessness that results in both saving Megumi but also taking in Sukuna. Even in Gege's first drafts of the story, let me know if I should review that one too, by the way, one of the constants is Yuji and Megumi. Gojo too, but him. Also the Culling Game, and you can't forget about Sukuna 1.0, just let me have this. Throughout the story, we've seen their friendship grow and develop. The two have helped and saved each other many a times, but most importantly, they've been there for each other in their times of need. With Tsumiki being ensnared in the Culling Games, Megumi pretty directly asks Yuji for his help to save him. Needless to say, I really dig this, and I dig it even more as of chapter 266. This conversation between the two is being had shortly after Sukuna Sukuna's rampage upon Shibuya. Yuji is understandably tormented over the entire event. Due to his perceived weakness, Sukuna managed to take over and lay waste to an incredible amount of human life. To add to that, Sukuna's strength only grows, and his interest in Megumi has also grown even more apparent, further solidifying Yuji's worry that, as long as he lives, everyone is in danger. It's because of this fear and doubt that he gives Yuta the go-ahead to kill him should Sukuna take over at any point. Which brings me to the Culling Games. Within the Culling Games, the goal of each participant is to simply survive. This brings us to rule number 1. Each person must declare their participation in their game. Normal civilians that have not had a cursed object put inside them or have not awakened cursed techniques are given a one-time choice to not participate. Should they walk into the barrier, however, that would then count as them participating in the games. Now that you've declared your participation or have randomly walked into the barrier, you must earn points in order to survive. To earn points, you must kill other players. Non-sorcerers are worth 1 point and sorcerers are worth 5. Once you reach a total of 100 more points, you can spend 100 points to add a new rule. The proposed rule must not interfere with the longevity of the game, so something like if I earn 1,000 points the game ends would just not work. And finally, should your point score remain the same for 19 days, your curse technique will be removed. Since curse techniques are linked to a sorcerer's brain, this would likely kill you. With a gang ready to make their way back to Jujutsu Tech, this feels like as good a time as any to talk about the black panels in JJK. Okay, now that's just racist. These fully black panels with text on them are widely regarded as curses within the community. Each time one of these quotes pops up, it just so happens to be something that was said in the past. Whether it's Wasuke telling Yuji to save people before Sukuna's rampage in Shibuya, or Nanami's last words coming back to Yuji, fueling his resolve in his fight against Mahito. Once you start looking for them, you end up seeing them all over the place. And while there's some that don't fit this curse umbrella, Yaga is actually a pretty good writer, surprise surprise, so I wouldn't be surprised if this was an intentional decision by him. Back at the school, Maki's alive. Oh, also Yuki's there. Using Choso's connection with his other death painting brothers, he leads everyone to the tomb. But as they head out, Maki asks Yuji just who exactly Choso even is, and Yuji, naturally, says the most correct dialogue line here. For now, think of him as my big brother. It really evokes a similar emotion to that of Yuji finally calling Todo his best friend, and I love Yuki's little emoticon face here. Peak comes after cubed. As they make their way through, wait a second, these halls, they look familiar. Oh god, oh fuck. One question that I have. How is it that in the last, 10 plus years, no one has bothered to clean up all of this blood? Like, what does Tengen do all day that they couldn't bother, picking up a mop and bucket and just cleaning house a little bit? Also, hey, Toji mentioned. Here's another thought. Can somebody, please, for the life of them, of me, ask who Toji is? Am I saying this because I want Megumi and Maki to know about Toji because he's related to the Zenin? Partially. Do I really want more of the cast to glaze Toji because he's an absolute Chad?
You got me.
Inside Tengen's house, Yuki remarks that Tengen's barrier is rejecting them. Not as a group, but her specifically. I wonder if this will have any meaning in the future. With no one or no thing in sight, the gang gets ready to pack their bags and leave. But just then, Tengen makes their first appearance in the manga. You guys want to hear a fun fact? Well, I guess it really isn't that much of a fun fact, but here's how Tengen apparently looked like before being turned into Thumb again. Did I show this for the simps? Yes. Am I simps? Also yes. Yuki and Tengen say some very cryptic, but also very interesting things here. For one, Tengen never merged with anyone. Yuki does tell Geto that Tengen stabilized, but the how isn't stated. Additionally, Yuki mentions Tengen's voice not proliferating. What's even more important though is Kenjaku's plan. Kenjaku had stated that his goal was to optimize curse energy back in Shibuya, but Tengen reveals that there's a big twist to this plan. What Kenjaku intends to do is to have humanity merge with Tengen in order to evolve. What exactly would be born from merging Tengen with all of Japan remains to be seen, and as for how one thumb can merge with 125 million people, well, the answer is a bit more abstract. Because Tengen didn't get to merge with a star plasma vessel, they evolved into something that exists everywhere. It's only because Tengen is the barrier goat that they're able to maintain this physical form. There's an easy solution though, just refuse the merger and it's GG, right? Well, not quite. Because Tengen has evolved past being human, they're much closer to cursed spirit, which makes them a prime target for cursed spirit manipulation. Kenjaku is a sorcerer that's over 1,000 years old at the bare minimum. He's been cooking up and attempting this plan for Kami knows how long, and has attempted it in the past as well. Unfortunately for him, the star plasma vessel, Six Eyes, and Tengen are all connected by fate. As such, whether Kenjaku unalive the star plasma vessel or the Six Eyes, on the day of the merger, they would both show up once more, ruining his plans. Honestly, I'd phone it in at that point and take up podcasting or something, but Kenjaku's perseverance paid off when Toji came into the picture. Due to his heavenly restriction, having completely separated him from cursed energy, he effectively operated beyond the laws of fate, destroying the connection between the star plasma vessel, Six Eyes, and Tengen. Seriously, is anyone going to ask just who Toji Zenin was? Just me? Okay, it's just me. Kenjaku took this opportunity, made a plot to seal Gojo, and now the Culling Games can play out without interruption. Saving Miki by adding a rule that allows unwilling participants to exit the games is top priority, with freeing Gojo being a close second. But wait, how are they meant to free Gojo? Turns out Tengen has the back of the prison realm in their possession. Oh, that's convenient. In order to break it open, a curse tool like the Inverted Spear of Heaven or Black Rope could do the job, but Gojo got rid of those many years ago. Thankfully, there's a sorcerer in the Culling Games from 1,000 years ago who can extinguish curse techniques. I'm dreading it as much as you are, don't worry. Holy fuck, this is a lot of information, but like, considering the entirety of the next arc is like non-stop fighting, I think it's fine. Before they head to the colonies, there's a few more things to prepare. For one, Yuki and Choso must stay behind to protect Tengen in case of Kenjaku. I love that Choso starts crying when Yuji leaves, by the way. Yuta heads out on his own because he's the GOAT. Maki plans to collect some curse tools from the Zenin clan now that she has the clan head's permission, and Yuji and Megumi head out to find Hakari. Oh yeah, apparently he's stronger than Yuta when he's worked up or something. You wouldn't even be able to comprehend the level of damage that this one page has done to some of the discourse within the fandom. Perfect preparation now? No, perfect sadness instead. Right before we can see what Maki's up to, the chapter Even Pandas is laid out before us. I don't like where this is going. In this chapter, we learn that the higher-ups have restrained Panda in order to lure Yaga out of hiding. With Gojo gone, Yaga's head is on the chopping block for having incited Gojo and Geto into starting the Shibuya plot. Up until now, Yaga has been hiding in a forest full of autonomous cursed corpses like Panda. Yaga is a character that we don't really see throughout the story, but I still like this chapter and him as a character. Gege often does a really good job at creating supporting characters, and Yaga is no exception. Instead of using his ability to create corpses to raise an army, he instead uses it to bring back the son of Kusakabe's sister as a favor to him. While it isn't technically her son, it still re-energizes her enough to stand from her wheelchair. Kusakabe cries, being eternally grateful for what Yaga had done for him. And as we cut back to the present, Kusakabe has actually freed Panda, but it's a little too late. Instead of trying to live by telling them what they came here for, information on how to create a cursed corpse, Yaga is defeated. Before he passes on, however, he leaves Gakuganji and Gakuganji only with that information, a curse from Yaga to him. I'll explain why I think he did this once we get to, way later in the story, so it might be a while. Panda arrives on the scene, seeing his father on the ground. He marches to him, completely ignoring Gakuganji. Just like how Panda had told Mikamaru back during Goodwill, he's just a panda. His behaviors don't mirror that of humans, and that he understands why Gakuganji had to do this. But remember one thing, even pandas cry. Needless to say, I really like Panda here. I mean, having a cursed corpse show more humanity than 97.294% of characters in the series is, I think, such a good call from a writing perspective. I only wish we got to see more of Panda throughout the Culling Games, but I'm getting ahead of myself.
With the goal of getting to the Zenin weapons cache in preparation for the perfect... I wouldn't go so low, don't worry. My humor is a bit more highbrow than that. Anyway, in order to perfectly prepare for the Culling Games, Maki heads back to the Zenin household. With Megumi being the clan head, she indirectly has access to the storehouse. Once she arrives, however, her father, Ogi Zenin, is there waiting for her, Mai wounded and bleeding behind him. There are no weapons here. Father of the year, am I right? If Naoya represented the cruel misogyny of the Zenin clan, Ogi represents the sort of super conservative and dated beliefs of the clan. According to him, the failures of his daughters is what caps him at being I like to call him a bum. The Zenin clan is built on tradition, so the highest honor that a sorcerer within the family can have to guarantee their status is access to an inherited technique. Naoya inherited his father's projection sorcery, while Megumi inherited the crown jewel of the Zenin clan, the 10 Shadows. This is why Naobito was willing to give Toji 10 million in gambling money for Megumi. On the other hand, Maki has nothing. She has no technique, nor is her heavenly restriction completed like Toji's. Mai has a curse technique, but both she and the technique are weak. To add insult to injury, twins are often seen as bad omens in Jujutsu, and it's exactly that drives Ogi to off his own daughters, believing that getting rid of that baggage will finally allow him to ascend past being a bum to being a slightly less of a bum. Maki versus Ogi. Wanting to slay his own daughter, Ogi engages Maki in a duel. He primes himself with Falling Blossom Emotion in anticipation of Maki's unknown curse tool, and first to act, he swings his sword at Maki's stomach, but the blow is parried as Maki swings hers upwards. She quickly readjusts her grip on the blade and swings down fully, catching Ogi off guard. Dragon Bone is a sword that absorbs force and curse energy, then using that same energy to amplify itself. Using the power absorbed from parrying Ogi's first swing, Maki has just snapped his sword in half, and she won't let that moment go to waste. She wraps around Ogi, attacking once more from his blind spot. However, Ogi isn't a swordsman like Maki. At his core, he's a Jujutsu sorcerer, a con man. Using his technique to recreate his blade with fire mid-swing, he slices open Maki's side, definitively winning the bout before the broken half of his original sword even hits the ground. He drags both Maki and Mai away, citing once more the reason that he never became clan head: the uselessness of his daughters. Maki and Mai's conversation at the beach is one of my favorite moments and definitely the highlight of the arc. Mai isn't particularly memorable on her own, but what makes her and Maki so interesting together is that they're each one side of the same coin. Is that a saying? Mai fully embraced her fate as a cursed twin and allowed herself to live at the bottom, doing chores, being quiet, and just generally
existing. Maki, on the other hand, did the opposite, leading the clan in search of strength and freedom. Her sheer desire to prove herself dragged Mai along with her, albeit begrudgingly. But with the two of them being connected by birth, if Mai is around dragging Maki down, Maki will always be half-assed, never able to reach her full potential like Toji had done. Mai fully understands this dilemma, and as she's bleeding out ready to die at any moment, she gives up her very life and soul for Maki. Maki tries to reach out to her to stop her, but all Mai does is hand her a piece of flowering reed. Believed to be a plant that wild geese use when crossing the sea to rest their wings, Mai no longer needs hers. Maki doesn't care about twins being cursed or for herself to be half-assed, she just wants Mai to come back to her. Despite the two of them bickering and fighting in season 1, it's clear that the two actually have love for one another, but regardless, Mai has already made peace with herself. All that she wants her big sister to do is destroy it all. Destroy a world that crushed them underfoot, and destroy the world that set them apart. The offering turns into a replica of Toji's katana, while Maki cries out to her sister one last time. Simultaneously, curses circle around them. A presence uncapturable by cursed energy, images of a specter long gone flash in front of Ogi's eyes. Reminding his body of a fear that it had tried so hard to forget, Maki has awakened. Ogi fully activates his curse technique, vowing to once more burn Maki down to the core, but his head has already been sliced in half. The geese soar above as Maki is finally on the journey to becoming truly free. The alarm bell rings and is heard throughout the Zenin clan. Confused by the commotion, Junichi and Naoya are surprised to see Ranta running up at them. Maki has lost her mind! She murdered Ogi-san! This isn't taken all that seriously. How could Maki defeat Ogi without some kind of handicap after all? The Kukuru is mobilized to take her out. A group of men from the clan that hold no curse techniques, they all circle around the newly awakened Maki. In the moment, Maki feels that the right thing for her to have done was to have never bothered becoming a sorcerer, to instead have ditched her pride and lived at the bottom with Mai. At the very least, that way Mai wouldn't have had to die. What's done is done, however, and the Kukuru give her no time as they press their attack. The first foot soldier charges forward, but both his hands come flying. Maki vaults over his back, slicing another one's head in half. She continues to make her way around the room, cutting heads and stabbing backs. This poor fucker gets his head completely shattered by the Dragon Bone's ability to propel itself, and Maki uses that momentum to snipe the guy behind him, before turning around and breaking foot soldier number 43's neck. In the commotion, one manages to sneak behind her, prepping his swing, but Maki dodges it by locking her legs around the guy who she just turned into an owl, and then simultaneously stabbing the assailant with his own dagger many times. The Kukuru head, completely absent from the entire fight, finally comes in to see the aftermath. A completely unfazed Maki standing over a pile of dismembered corpses stares back at him. Just then, the Hei finally make their move. The Zenin clan's strongest squad take on Maki. Chojuro initiates the battle first, trapping Maki in giant stone hands, reminiscent of Jogo's lava hands from the anime. Maki breaks out of it and proceeds to rip out their throats. That is just metal as fuck. These guys are, busy playing Duck Hunt, while Maki is out there playing Mortal Kombat. Ranta takes this moment to stun Maki in place using every last ounce of strength in his curse technique, and Junichi then takes the opportunity to launch himself at Maki alongside an avalanche of giant fists. As the dust settles, Ranta is left behind blind and dying, but he's happy that Maki has finally been defeated, only for her to be the one that marches out of the smoke, carrying with her Junichi's head. All that's left is Naoya versus Maki. This is Maki's first big non-fodder fight. While everyone she just got done wiping the floor with isn't weak, Naoya is the first one to actually put Maki on the back foot. But right as they're about to fight, we see a flashback of Kid Naoya. A little shit since birth, he's excited to see his complete opposite. While Naoya's birth was blessed with him being a genius and next in line as the clan head, this loser had no curse energy, a total outcast and failure that brought shame to the clan. Naoya excitedly made his way to him, prepared to see the face of a truly miserable man, only to be met with no misery, no sign of desperation, just the calm anger of a man that lives for himself, unbothered by the world around him. Like Ranta had said, the Zenin clan only remained because of Toji's whims. This panel of Toji might be my favorite of his period. I just feel like it conveys so much information and just so much emotion while being a hard-cut response to Naoya's childish ideas just the page before. It also just goes to show how important of a man Toji was. Back to the present, Maki is counting as she parries all of Naoya's attacks. He manages to grab hold of her arm, turning her into a frame before kicking and launching her through the valley. This sequence is super cool, and I just love how much motion Gege is able to convey here, and a big part of this is thanks to the really good backgrounds that his assistants make, and I kind of want to highlight them because JJK would not look half as good if Gege did not have some of these assistants. Naoya makes it to Maki's location first, casting his technique once more, this time launching her straight into the cliffside, all the while assuring himself that Maki is in fact not Toji. Maki tries to get up, but is launched once more before of being grabbed and dragged through the mountainside. Maki breaks through it, trying to use it as a diversion, but Naoya manages to counter once more, proclaiming that he belongs next to the strongest like Gojo and Toji. This is why I said his ideology is only a Temu version of Sukuna's. What Naoya misses is that Sukuna only lives for himself. While Naoya has the discard others down pat, he still lives in Toji's shadow. Toji isn't someone to be stronger than, it's someone to be on par with. If Sukuna was in this position, the goal wouldn't be to be like Toji or to be like Gojo, it would be to be like Sukuna. Maki isn't doing well by this point. Naoya is only getting faster, stacking his technique over and over until he reaches his maximum. Maki extends out her arms, goading Naoya into charging her head on. He propels himself at max speed, visually breaking the sound barrier. Maki goes for the grapple, but he speeds past her, activating his curse technique. Maki is frozen. Any wrong move, even a millimeter, will cause her to become a freeze frame. Naoya wraps back around, but Maki turns just in time, landing what might be the most satisfying punch once it gets animated. With prior knowledge of having seen the technique back in Shibuya and her new body, Maki both figures out and counters Naoya completely, unmistakably a one-punch victory. With every combatant taken care of, there's only one more source of pain remaining. Maki takes her own mother's life. Kinda. She actually survives for a while longer. Naoya just barely makes it out alive, but is shortly after killed by Maki's mother. Knowing that she'd made mistakes in her life, this was her way to atone by putting an end to one of the worst offenders of the Zenin clan. In her final moments, she's actually proud of her daughters, proud that they were able to put an end to it all. In the meantime, Maki leaves Mai's body with Momo as she goes on her merry way to allegedly kill off the remaining Hei and Kukuru members. I really like this arc for a few reasons, but the biggest one for me is that Gege was unafraid to have one of the good guys do a pretty monstrous act, and while the Zenin have been kind of a blight on the story, I find it hard to believe that every single person that Maki unalived was an irredeemable bad guy. And I feel like that's all by design, because the gray area of right and wrong is something that Gege explores consistently throughout the story, and this one is no exception.
Up until this point, you've been looking at the volume release versions of these panels. Truth is, when the chapter first came out, they looked a little something like this. Due to the pressure and struggle of writing and illustrating a weekly series for years on end, it was bound to take its toll at some point. Being a mangaka is hard, and when a writing decision is made that you or I don't like, I think it's important to take a step back and recognize that fact. Through sickness and health, Gege continued to write the story, and for that, I have immense respect. Although I do wish it didn't have to be this way. I bring this up because Jujutsu Kaisen is ending this week, and the amount of hate and disdain that I've seen for even the smallest of things that aren't even real issues themselves oftentimes is just very sad, and I just wish people would, take a step back. With that out of the way, let's get gambling.
Alright guys, welcome back to another Dokkan battle video. Let's just jump straight into the summons here. I think I'm going to do it on the Broly banner. Let's take a look. Oh god. I'm about to get shafted, aren't I? Rainbow text, no long Kamehameha. Oh, it's over Frieza. Okay, yep. Okay, yep, okay. That was stupid. What the fuck is wrong with me? Okay, this must feel like a fever dream. Explain. Basically, Hakari's a gambler? What? That's as far as I think some of these things through. Needing all the hands they can get, Yuji, Megumi, and Panda head out to find Hakari. Given that Hakari got expelled for beating up a higher up, he wants nothing to do with Jujutsu Tech. This means Yuji and Megumi have to go undercover straight into Hakari's fight pit. That's right, this guy is running an underground fight club. They kind of waltz right in with Megumi being the decoy, and Hakari is immediately suspicious of him and has his goons shoo him away while Yuji is the one that'll be fighting in the ring. His opponent? Panda. What Hakari does is he scripts some of the fights in order to make things more interesting. He's been avoiding Panda, but if Yuji can put up a good enough show, Hakari might take notice and bring him in. As his bout with Panda starts, we finally get to see the man of the hour, bored out of his mind because the spectators are too. Surely there is no man that can fight a Panda head on, right? Well, Yuji does just that, impressing Hakari enough that he wants to see Yuji ASAP. I'm gonna be honest, Hakari's probably the most Giga Chad character there is. I love a good gamble, and creating a character centered around that is really cool. While I kinda like his original design, I can't deny that he's got real drip here. Even with his disgusting hair that makes no goddamn sense, how does one animate this piece of dog shit? Also, he's a funny guy, so there's that. While Yuji makes his way to Hakari, Megumi and Panda play Metal Gear Solid. Megumi does all the cool shit like ducking in and out of shadows to take out the guards, while Panda tosses a tractor tire at them and also steals their fish hostage in the process. I fucking love this guy. They get close to the door, but Kirara, oh yeah, Kirara is another third year who's Hakari's friend? Yeah, definitely, friends. Anyway, they're not gonna let Megumi and Panda make it to Hakari. How? Using their curse technique. A technique that is only a tiny bit confusing. Inside the room, Yuji is finally face to face with Hakari. The first thing this man does, tries to scam Yuji from his hard-earned money. Have I said how much I like Hakari? An outcast of Jujutsu society, he aims to make a place for himself through his fight club. How? By controlling the country's fever. Essentially, he wants all the gamblers in the world rallying behind him, but to Hakari, everybody's a gambler, as gambling is a part of life. The scammer and scammee both act because of this fever, and it's that part that Hakari adores. As he pitches himself to Yuji, a call from Kirara signals that something is wrong. Hakari then proceeds to calmly turn into L, completely catching Yuji off guard and getting him to admit that he's from Jujutsu Tech. I love this cursed image of Yuji realizing that Hakari knows as well. Also, Hakari uses his curse technique here for the first and last time that we'll be seeing meaningfully. This will make a little bit more sense later, but it's just a funny realization I had as I was reading it. Kirara versus Megami and Panda. As much as I want to go into detail about this fight, I also don't want to. The thing is, this fight isn't as kinetic or visually interesting as what we've seen so far. Instead, it's more of a JoJo style fight where the main focus is the weird ability that Kirara has. Love Rendezvous allows Kirara to place up to 5 different marks on practically anything using their cursed energy. In order to approach the other marks, a predetermined order of marks must be followed. For example, if you're trying to go from mark 1 to mark 5, you wouldn't be able to just cut straight through like this. You'd instead have to make your way to 2 first, then 3, then 4, and only then can you get to 5. If you try to cut ahead, you'll be repelled away. Megami quickly figures it out in a pretty funny fashion. Rather than him being a super genius that knows with 100% certainty, he takes a gamble and it pays off, with Kirara's expression giving the whole game away. He outsmarts them, getting them in between him and the dog, meaning if they don't deactivate the technique, they'll get crushed between the two. Astrology girlies up big with this fight, since Megami only figures it all out due to Tsumiki's yapping his head away when they were younger. Yuji's cock speech is another highlight of the arc, but not something I'm interested in touching too deeply, since a lot of it pretty naturally changes later down the line, so I kind of want to give myself more time to take it in when we get there. Yuji allows Hakari to pummel him, hoping that his resilience will earn his respect. While Yuji is firm in his cog mentality at this point, Hakari isn't initially a fan. Not only had Yuji come to ask Hakari to risk his life on a whim, how could someone with no fever or desire ever hope to convince him like this? Yuji continues to take unguarded blows, ultimately getting knocked out. Hakari tells Megami and Panda to pack their bags, but Yuji is back up again. He'll continue doing so until Hakari says yes. Yuji is a cog whose goal is to exercise curses, and if Hakari is someone who can help with that goal, he will follow him for eternity until that answer is a yes. It's this single-minded intensity that wins Hakari over, and at the end of the day, his fever has always been at its peak when helping people at the school. This is a line that made me like Hakari a lot. I think watching GTO all those years ago has given me a super soft spot for rough and rugged characters that are actually super chill trope, and Hakari is just a chill dude. When finding out that Gojo's sealed and Yaga is gone, he says that he hasn't been this bummed out since Yakul got an arrow in his butt. Yakul, by the way, is a dear thing from Princess Mononoke. With Hakari on the team, all that's left now is to debrief him on the sitch. Since we already know all of this, I won't go over it again. One thing to note, Yuji is actually a player in the Culling Games already somehow. Does Giga forget about this? No, he doesn't. Have some faith. And now, my favorite part, introducing a bum and a Giga Chad. Chapter 158 is our first good look at Kashimo, a sorcerer from 400 years ago who's collected around 200 points already. He spends 100 to add a rule, allowing players to see information on each other. This ends up being a good thing actually, since it allows the gang to see who should they approach for points first. Kashimo has an extra 100 left over, and another player, Higuruma Hiromi, also has 100 points. Speaking of Higuruma Hiromi is one of my favorite characters in the manga, and his introductory chapter is gold. A lawyer that takes up impossible cases, he's brought to his wit's end when his defendant gets sentenced after having been found not guilty in the first trial. We're going to be talking about Higuruma in depth when we get to the Culling Games, so for now I'll blue ball you with just that description. Trust me though, Higuruma is awesome. With all the players set up and ready to go, Panda and Hakari head after Kashimo, while Yuji and Megami are tasked with finding Higuruma. And with that, perfect preparation comes to an end and the Culling Games can begin. Why do I feel like I'm forgetting someone? The final panel is mine! Also make sure to check out the Season 2 review. Okay, bye!